There's a girl, she's a star. She's got style. Steffi Star, you see her face around the town. She's popular. Steffi Star.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Weinstein.
And I'm Meredith Keach.
And this is the show with Weinstein and Keach.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some awesome guests on today.
Very excited.
We love our Wally. I call him
Hi, Wally.
Walls.
Hey, everybody.
Actually, his real name is Dave Walsdorf, but we call him Wally.
The motorcycle man.
Yep. He was on and he brought us our other guests, the RHG TV guests.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And today he brought another fabulous guest
Wicked famous.
that we're so excited to meet.
Yeah, I'm Vic. I'm from UltraSafe. I'm the bug man.
He's the bug
Bug
man,
man.
and it's Vic, V-I-C.
Yep.
No K.
Okay.
What made you decide to drop the K?
So VICK is actually short for Vicky.
Oh,
So it's
Vic is the masculine form of.
short for Victor.
Gotcha.
Which is a tough name to live up to, right? I mean, you got to be winning all the time or
Right, that's right. Meredith, you have no idea what we were talking about before you got here.
I do not.
Well, first of all, we were talking about, what did you say about the
sea monkeys we were talking about.
we were talking about,
I brought up sea monkeys because I'm just a giant little kid. And I remember getting sea monkeys out of the back of comic books.
right,
Yes,
right? We
yes,
all had sea monkeys.
yes.
Then we got that case and we
Yes.
got,
Yeah.
Meredith, do you know what a sea monkey really is?
No.
Vic?
So those are mosquito larvae.
Stop.
They basically sell
I knew you would love it.
they sell you mosquito eggs, and there's certain breeds of mosquitoes have they lay their eggs where it's going to flood, so that way they can lay there for a while, and then when the flood waters rise, they hatch. So when you got those sea monkeys, pour them into water, immediately you see a little
We're all
mosquito
idiots.
larva swim.
Right?
This is why there's gazillionaires out there to
How?
sell us
Right.
flipping mosquito eggs.
Yeah. Effing disgusting.
I don't think they do it anymore. I think they realize, the whole vector disease problems.
And we thought they were so cute.
Schleps, yeah.
Like, I have pet sea monkeys. This is what went on in the 80s,
Imagine.
folks.
I bought an
Unbelievable.
ant farm too, so I'm a double
Oh,
idiot.
I did too.
Those are still cool. In fact, I've kept a few at the office.
It was pretty
just-
cool seeing them do their
It
thing.
is. I think it's amazing.
And then all of a sudden they all died at once one day. It was a massacre. I don't know what
Well, I'll
happened.
never forget at our house in East End, something happened, and Jason, next thing I know, he's out with a flashlight following the ants into the woods, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Must have been carpenter ants. That's the best time to see them is at night, the large black ants. So,
Oh, it is?
yeah, they're more active at night, so that's why sometimes during the day, the pest control techs are usually coming out during the day, and they can be tough to, all of a sudden, we don't see any today, of course, but we see a ton of them at night.
Oh, so where should we look?
Pretty much along the foundation, anywhere for carpenter ants, it's like a moisture thing. So any portions of the house that are in the shade don't really get quite the sunlight, so remain wet. That's where you want to focus your search for carpenter ants. Getting up under the siding, they love where porches and decks meet the structure. There, plenty of times we'll find them nesting right in between that.
Now, do you find, so let's back up for a minute for our listeners. Tell us about your company and what you do.
So I run UltraSafe Pest Management. We're 24 years in business in the Boston area, and we do full service pest control. So everything from, your general insects to rodents, wildlife, termites, and wood destroying insects as well, mosquito and tick control. So pretty much the whole gamut of pests.
Now, is your approach, my approach to critters or bugs in my house is death.
Okay.
So
This is not surprising.
is that your approach to this management, or is it?
I hope you let them free, Vic.
Do you just?
This is
So
the
a lot
difference
of
between
cases,
Meredith and I.
Yeah,
I
you
would say-
can't come in, but once you come in, that's
You're
it for
mine.
me.
A lot of
Your squirrel meat.
a lot of our work will result in death, but we try to take a preventative approach. That's really the main point we try to hit home with the customer is you can prevent a lot of issues
How?
by just having, a pest professional do just routine inspections, in service. So preventative services, but more importantly, they're walking around, they're looking for signs of activity, and hopefully can get these things squared away before they become like a full-on infestation or start causing damage. Most of the time, like with the carpenter ants, most pests are kind of behind the scenes, right? They don't want to be out in the main, you don't see them out in the middle of the floor, you don't see, a lot of them during the day. They're really hidden. They want to be out when the house is quiet, no one's around, do their thing. So if you don't really know what you're looking for, people can go quite a long time with a pest problem before they realize, something's going on. By then there's damage, especially with termites. Like termites can't even be exposed to the air. They're like a soft-bodied, insect that, so you're never going to see them. They're going to be in the walls. They're going to, they're going from underground, coming up. They're bringing their own mud, creating these little mud tubes for them to travel. You won't see them until there's like extensive damage, or if they swarm, like when the colony gets to be a certain size, they'll swarm in the spring where you'll see those winged reproductives. And that's where we'll get the call from the homeowner. Oh my God, there's flying ants all over the kitchen, or they think, and we go out and it's typically, a termite swarm or something like that. So that's stuff that can be prevented. We have preventative termite baiting systems that can be installed. So that way, when termites approach, you have that protection there before they cause damage. Or I've seen them hold up many real estate transactions because the home inspector finds termites or termite activity, so.
Oh yeah, I remember. So I had a situation, a bat situation.
Bat.
A
Do you
bat.
do bats too?
We do.
Yeah, so who do you call? But you call Wally,
Yeah.
right? When you have
Call Wally for everything.
You call Wally
He'll
for
point,
every...
he's got a guy for everything.
Exactly. I go, Wally.
That seems to be the theory.
I know. Wally, I have a huge problem here. I have a house with bats. So instead of going to any of my real estate professionals, I go to Wally.
Yeah.
And Wally said, I got a guy. And so then I hooked my sellers up with Vic. He immediately came over and rectified the situation. Now, don't ask us about it because none of us remember. But I do remember him going over. And maybe it will come to me during the podcast.
Bats are challenging, especially in Massachusetts, for a number of reasons.
Well, they're protected.
They're protected.
So you can't kill them, Meredith.
Oh.
Can't kill them, which is fine. We're able to control them without killing them. But because of their migratory habits, it's state law that we can only control the bats in the month of May or August, September, October. Like those are the months. So the rest of the year, when people call for it, it's tough. We can't really do anything about it until that time because they're worried about, because basically the control method is sealing up all the openings that they can get in. And then the main opening that they're using, or sometimes there's a couple that they're using regularly, we put a one-way eviction device over that.
Right.
So that they can fly out and can't get back in. But if you do that in the wintertime, they're all going to die, right? Because there's no insects. Like, they're not coming out anyway. You have to, like, force them out. But, and again, if you do that in June and July when they're birthing their pups, you can't do it because, again, when the adults leave, they'll be locked out. The juveniles will be at the roost with no food or resources.
And then they'll die
in the wall. So
you don't want that.
Is a baby bat called a pup for real?
Yeah.
I am learning so much already.
Or young or juvenile.
So wait a minute. We have a home inspection.
Yep.
The home inspector finds that there's bats in the attic.
And what month are you in, Meredith?
And I'm in one of the wrong months. And the deal falls apart, and I have bats living in my house, and I have a fear, hypothetically speaking, that a bat has rabies and is going to bite someone in my house. And you say, Meredith, I'm sorry, I can't help you because of their migratory patterns. And I say to you, Vic, will cash in an envelope change your mind?
Ooh, I like that. I like your style.
So the good news with it is, yes, we would have to wait to do the full exclusion, but the state allows for, if there's any So if the bat is in the living space or the bat, you actually have bats in the attic and one made its way down, right? It happens. They fall down a wall void. They come out the wrong crevice. Next thing you know, they're flying around the kitchen. We can remove that. We can remove that single bat or bats that is, in the living space posing a direct risk of human wildlife conflict. So if there's a chance of that happening, we can physically remove that. We can also try to figure out where the likely scenario that they got into the living space, and we can seal that up because we're not stopping them, from getting in and out of their roost and being able to hunt and rear their young. We're just stopping them from getting into the living space. So a lot of times we'll stop.
I was trying to get bat noises.
This is just amping up my anxiety right now.
That's how.
So
they
wait,
sound.
the state says I have to cohabitate with the bats until a certain month when you can get them out.
That's
we can
right,
keep them
Meredith.
out of the living space, but we have to keep them in the attic until it's safe to get them out.
Now, do you have people just calling you in complete panic, or is everybody just like, nah, it's fine, I'll wait 6 months?
Both. Most of the time, if it's a bat in the living space, they're calling. It's an emergency service call. We're getting that call in the middle of the night. We're getting that call from police departments. A lot of people think I'm calling the animal control officer, but they're not going to take care of that. They'll usually refer someone like us.
And isn't it true that bats have a high rate of rabies? Or no?
That's actually not true.
Thank God.
False, Meredith.
Thank God. Fake news.
Yeah, when one has been in the living space with a person and the person's not sure if they had because if a bat bites you or scratches you, very tiny sharp teeth, you wouldn't even really feel it,
Really?
So if you were sleeping or somebody who was infirm, an elderly person that wasn't sure if there was contact, so you woke up, there's a bat flying around your living room.
I would faint.
You weren't really sure if that thing, landed on the bed and you rolled over it or something like that. So those bats should be tested. So we take them down to we have to euthanize them. We take them to the state rabies lab. They test it. You get the results like 24 hours later. I've never had, in 24 years, I've probably brought 50 or 60 bats to the test and never had one test positive.
Well, of course, Meredith has a story of a death.
Not death. Well, there's no cure for rabies. So if you risk it, there's no cure. You die from rabies.
What about the rabies shot?
You have to get that. So like my girlfriend's family, they had a bat inside the house. I don't know if they could capture it or whatever, but everybody in the house had to go for rabies shots because they weren't sure.
Right. So that's the thing. If you don't capture it in time or somebody let it out and now you're unsure if there was contact, the doctors will recommend a series of shots.
In the belly. Yep. But if you get rabies, you just die.
So you're always better off if you can capture it or have a professional capture it and test it, save yourself from those shots. And like I said, everyone I've ever brought was negative. That's a pretty good sampling because they've came from all over the state.
Right. So what months can you get rid of them?
May and then August, September, October, before it starts getting cold again.
You should go up in your attic, Meredith, and see if you have bats. Because then in May, Vic can come and get rid of them.
Good point.
How do we know if... I was showing a house once. I told the girl, my friend, not to buy it. There was yellow stuff coming down the walls. And the home inspector went upstairs into the attic and he said, you have a bad mouse problem. She's like, that's okay. I'll still buy the house. I'm like, please don't buy the house. It needed a septic, the whole thing. Anyway, she put an offer and it didn't get accepted. I go, yay. And then 2 days later, the realtor called me, we're accepting your offer because the other one fell through. I'm like, boo. So anyway, she buys the house and I'm walking around asking, what is this yellow stuff down the walls? And they're like, it's just a really dirty house. Well, fast forward, she had the worst infestation of bats that anyone has ever seen. And that was bat urine coming down the walls.
They call guano or something like that.
So they both urinate and have the guano coming from the perch. So wherever they're perching, wherever they're roosting,
they're just crapping everywhere.
Yeah, you're
like
gonna have
pigeon.
piles of that underneath.
Are you scared of bats? No.
they're one of my favorites to work with.
Do you have a pet
Really?
bat?
I don't.
Why are they your favorite to work with?
What about a cute mouse?
I just find them very they're unique from all the other pests in the sense they're not a rodent, right? A lot of people think, they're just, rats with wings. Well, they're not a rodent. They don't need to gnaw to where their teeth are not always growing like a rat or a mouse where they have to chew to control that,
So is a bunny a rodent?
It is.
Bunny's
It
a
is,
rodent?
actually. Yeah.
Wait till I tell my sister.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that. And what about the increase in rats? Is that like a thing? I keep hearing about rat infestations by towns.
It's a
This is
big
the
thing.
worst podcast.
You asked for it.
Oh my
It's a
God.
big thing, the rats. It is. It used to be urban focused, so you'd see it in the cities, you'd see it, around the restaurants, and but now they've really spread into the suburbs. During COVID, we saw a lot of that with all the
Yay.
restaurant shutdowns and
Oh.
stuff in Boston. That was going on.
So what do you mean? That because of the shutdown that they found a different territory?
Yeah, they just move. They move to an area where there's more resources. And what they've found in the suburbs, a lot of chicken coops, a lot of things like that, people's compost piles. Those are the types of scenarios they're looking for that can sustain. Rats, they're pretty active. They need, high metabolism. They're always looking for food. They need water every day, unlike mice.
Oh.
Mice can get enough water just from their food. They don't even really need to drink water. They can live out their whole life cycle in a bag of grains, if there's enough moisture content within that grain. Not so with the rats. They need water pretty much every day or they'll die. So there's a constant, movement with the rats. So they're looking for a place that they can hunker down, have their burrows, and not have to travel far for food and water. They want to be like within 100, 150 feet of everything they need. So the suburbs have taken quite a hit. We're seeing a lot more rat activity in the suburbs than we used to.
Well, my daughter's having a terrible time with mice. So they need to call you. So her landlord has been calling, I don't know who, but she was, I can't live here. I can't.
We get
No
those
one
calls.
cares about me. They were finding, the mouse droppings on the kitchen counter. Now she's just like, oh, there's more mouse droppings, and
I'd be
she's
done.
wiping them up. She's living with friggin' mice, and they've tried all kinds of traps and everything, but I haven't heard from her lately because she's not complaining about it anymore. But I think she's just learning to live with mice.
Do you have to learn to live with
Should
them?
do something with it. No, the mice are one of the most prolific reproducers, out of
Yeah.
most of the pests we deal with. So it's something you don't want to let it go because it can really turn into
Well, I'm also
quite
living-
an infestation.
Ugh, ew.
So in this instance, like why do they keep
why do they keep coming back?
Why do they keep
put
coming back?
traps and poison and all kinds of stuff. It's a
I
triple
don't think that
decker.
they're coming back. It's probably that they never really are getting, to the bottom of it. So they're getting,
Oh.
what will happen a lot of times with rodents is when you're putting out traps and things like that, you're catching the younger, more
Stupid
inexperienced ones. The
Right.
ones that have had like near misses with traps and stuff, they learn from that experience. So that they build up some avoidance. So you have to use, different trapping methods and kind of change it up, different baits. A lot of times we'll use maybe some traps. Instead of putting brand new traps that they might be a little bit wary of, we'll put, something that maybe has a smell of some other rodents on it already. That
Do you
way.
put up signs for them that says like cheese here?
Food this way, buffet. Cheese is actually probably one of the worst baits you can use. That's another
is it?
misconception. Yeah, just it dries out so fast that it
Oh.
loses its attractiveness.
They don't want dry cheese.
They want,
What do they want, Vic?
They want something a little oily that's going to remain moist.
butter?
Sardines?
Peanut butter lasts a little long, but that also dries out.
Oh.
And then, of course, you have the peanut allergies that are
Oh.
really more prevalent these days.
Mice
so we
have
don't
peanut
actually use
allergies?
peanut butter. No, people.
Oh,
So we don't want to use them in somebody's house. And we
Oh.
don't know if somebody
Some of the
in there-
mice do have peanut allergies, so
But we do.
Please.
They do like nuts. So we use a professional bait that's made for the industry. It's basically like they make a paste like out of ground up nuts and oil, so it stays really wet and oily on the trap. So it's gonna be attractive, have that odor for a longer period of time, help to outcompete the food. That's the other thing. If they get a regular source of food, they're not as willing to make a change and go looking for new stuff. You know, it's like, we're going to take all this food till that's gone and then we'll go look.
I'm going to say there's a lot of crumbs in Alexa's apartment. If I know the Alexas, they've been roommates for a very long time.
Well, you don't have to. I mean, you guys know that my house is sitting on wetlands, and I keep a pretty clean house. Vic just, his company just took care of my mouse problem. I have one about every 3 years.
Oh.
Why does that happen?
So we have two types of mice really around. We have, you call them the city mice and the country mice if you want, but it's basically, we have like the native mice, like the white-footed mice that live out in the woods, white-footed or deer mice, they're very similar. They live in the woods. They're part of our native ecosystem. Typically not an issue outdoors, but they're the ones that when the seasons change and it starts to get real cold and there's not a lot of seeds and regular food sources, they're the ones that push to come in. So they're coming in. A lot of times they'll bring their own acorns and nuts in with them. So people will find those, I see all these
Cute.
acorn shells in my attic,
Oh.
where the other mouse, the house mouse, that's the invasive, that's the one that's, it's non-native, it was
Someone
brought
it
here,
from someone-
yeah, generations ago. They typically don't live in the wild. They're going to be, strictly commensal, meaning they're going to live off of people. They're going to be, within the structure. They're not going to go in and out with the change of the seasons. So you have to know what you're dealing with. The more wild mice, they tend to be in the attics, and like I said, they'll bring in their own food cache, so they don't really need to be foraging in the kitchens and stuff as much as like the house mouse. So a lot of times people don't even see the activity as much until it starts to build up, and then you hear the scratching and the ceiling and the walls at night and the chewing.
I'm living with a squirrel.
What?
Oh, yeah. So first I was petrified and I would run out of the house. Now I just hear, ooh, sorry, Adam. Now I hear this.
Vic, can you please get rid of our squirrel?
I hear
Are
scratching.
there rules
I
on
hear-
when they can come? Come in?
I mean,
You can get
he
rid of
is
those
loud.
anytime.
He is scratching. It sounds
Why
like.
haven't you had Vic in?
Well, the homeowners association called someone. I don't know who, but we have a big problem with our front stairs and we have holes in them.
Yep.
I think he's coming in through, I don't know where he's coming in from.
So this time of year is when we get the most squirrel calls, because this is when they're denning up to have their young. So
I just bang on the ceiling.
they're looking to get into the soffits and into the attics and have a nice place to birth those young.
He wants to birth his young.
You want to get them out before that happens if you can.
Hopefully it won't come inside your house.
Will it?
It might, but usually it doesn't. It's like the bats. There's usually nothing in there for it. It's getting its food. It's getting everything it needs
Fine, it's
outside.
nice and
It's just
warm.
coming in for the shelter. Yep.
Coming in for the shelter, man.
Okay.
Remember my condo in North Andover?
You had quite a few in there.
Yeah.
You had a few squirrels?
Yeah, I had.
It's very common, Meredith. Very common.
Me and squirrels don't get along.
It's the most common.
Did you kill him?
Wild.
Probably.
No, Vic came and got him out. There was one. I came home from work one day, and my brand new leather couch was torn to shreds.
Shut up, Wally. That's not true.
Yes, it is.
Are you
So,
effing
They
kidding
get out
me?
in the house, like if they,
I'm
it's usually by
scared.
accident, right? They like the bat scenario. They came through the wrong opening. They end up in the house. They flip. Yeah,
Came
they
in
flip
through the
out. They
bathroom.
rip everything out.
Through the
They
bathroom.
Yeah, and then as soon as we got rid of that one, there was more. I was in a condo and I'm top floor,
Okay.
so and all the storage was on top.
Okay.
How he got in there, I don't know, but I'm in there cooking, and all of a sudden I hear,
Yeah.
and I look up, he's chewing through the ceiling.
What did you do?
I called Vic, he got rid of it, and then I
Steph,
sold the
can
condo.
you just call Vic and forget about the association?
I patched the ceiling, and I patched the ceiling, and
And then you called Stephanie and said, get me
Get
out
me
of
in the
here.
house.
No, he
no,
probably used Aaron Waluka.
no, I
Oh,
didn't.
right.
I used who sold it? Kathy Johnson from Coldwell out of Andover.
Wonderful.
Ah, thank God you used a Coldwell Banker agent.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, how dare you go?
Okay,
Kept it
wait
in
a
the
minute.
family.
I am
Okay,
so
button this up for me. Squirrels are coming into my living space, chewing through the ceiling.
and ripping up your leather freaking couch.
Or your
What?
screens. I've seen them destroy like every screen in the house trying to get out.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
trying to get out. They don't really want to be in there. you
Yeah.
know?
What about people who have pet squirrels? I see that on
Yeah,
Instagram.
I've seen people with pet squirrels,
Yeah,
pet
they're
skunks,
idiots.
pet hedgehog. I mean, you name it.
A pet skunk?
Yeah. Yeah, they'll get it descented, remove
What
the
was the
scent glands.
worst?
Infestation you've ever seen.
I
any
always
creature.
find the cockroach infestations the most, I guess eye-popping, and it usually stems around not so much the cockroaches themselves, but in those high-level infestations where you just have a ton, it's usually the living conditions that are pretty, pretty substandard.
So part of
you know.
that shock was from the living conditions that you
The
saw.
conditions of the units that we're treating.
Yeah.
Just if you're getting those real heavy infestations, usually like a place of squalor type of
Yeah.
scenario.
Hoarders.
Hoarders. It's sad because it's not always somebody. You think, just clean up your act and you won't have it, but you have elderly people, handicapped people that are maybe living by themselves, and they just maybe don't have the resources or the ability to do that. So in those situations, you want to try to find them the help. There's companies that we work with that will come in and help clean that up, and there's even a lot of state-funded programs for that assistance. And
Can
that
you
will
really
come in.
get rid of cockroaches?
You can,
though?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
But you can also get them very quick. It doesn't take much, and if left unchecked, they can. You can get them. You get a takeout from the Chinese restaurant. They can be cockroach eggs in the bag. Just because where the bags are being stored.
Don't worry, Steph. Not
And I don't
they're
mean
clean.
to, single out any particular type of restaurant. Any restaurant, any food handling establishment. Even I've seen them come from, somebody gets particular type of house plant or something, and there was some going on in there.
Do you think there's truth to this? Because I've told the story unverified that a cactus came. My friend bought a cactus.
You're not supposed to have cactus in your house. It's bad feng shui because it has prickles.
I didn't know that.
Well, but there was
Spiders.
yes.
That
the
happens. Yep.
There's spiders everywhere in your
It-
house that you don't
No,
even
but
know.
if there's an egg
No,
sac
an
in
egg sac
Oh.
filled with baby spiders, that
thousands
hatch
of them
out
will
of
hatch out.
Oh, okay, I need to take a break. This is too much for me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Jen-
so what?
Did
So
I
that
get
is
care of
true?
that? You
That
call,
is true.
You call up Vic and you get on one of his contracts, which I've been on since I bought this house.
Oh, that's
in
a good idea.
15. And they come out either 2 or 3 times a year. They do inspections.
That's
They
a good idea.
spray, and they're always there if you have a problem. If you get on one of these contracts at a very reasonable money, you like.
You're saving
you
yourself.
call up and
Yeah.
I got mice in my basement.
Someone's coming right out.
We'll be
Yeah.
there either later on this afternoon or tomorrow morning, and they take care of it.
Vic, how much is a yearly contract?
It goes by the property size and
Okay.
type, but on average, we have like a home protection program where we come out, every 3 months, or
Right.
quarterly. Something like that's going to cost you typically like $250 a quarter, but you're covered year round. So
That's great.
Like Wally said, if in between, there's mice or something going on, we send somebody out, no
Yeah,
charge,
just call.
take care of that. And a lot of times when they're out, they're doing that inspection, so they're pointing the stuff out to you. Hey, I found some, some droppings in the attic. We're taking care of that, setting some traps. So, it's more of a preventative. In fact, that's the way we're heading as a company, and I think even the industry. But we used to be focused on just that on-demand call out. So we're answering the calls. People have this. We're going out, getting rid of it. Moving on. Now we're going right to those programs because we see the value. The customer sees the value of having a professional. It's like only going to the doctors if you're sick, right?
Yeah.
You should go
Right.
for your physicals, your checkups, and for screening so that they can find something, before it turns
will
into
definitely
a
say the
problem.
subscription. I had a subscription for a long time, and I just, with the way our lifestyle with our family was, the coming out didn't work after a while. But I had them for years, and they got rid of mice because that was the first one we had mice. from a door. It wasn't a solid metal door
Okay.
in the basement. And so they were coming in there, and they got rid of the mice. They also found like a wasp nest in my basement that I had no idea, never would have thought. The guy was like, have you had wasps flying around? I'm like, no. He's like, come look at this. This is growing. They found a leak that had been there since the house was built, just in doing their patrolling.
Oh.
There was a nail that went
Right.
into a pipe that was a slow drip. So that in and of itself saved me
A lot.
a gazillion dollars of
Right.
potential damage. They did the perimeter. And then this was a weird one. We took down all the trees around the house. Then we had a spider problem. So that was another thing. But I need to get back
So
on
that
that.
probably had something to
Call
do with the
Vic.
trees. They
Yeah.
were probably finding everything they needed in those trees, and then when you took them down,
Yes.
they just moved to that tree was their structure, and then your house became,
Yes, that was.
So yeah, there is, I can't.
That's
It's hard for me to believe that there's any house out there in the state right now that doesn't have some pests going on.
Right.
Just because people aren't seeing it doesn't mean it's not happening on a regular
Right.
basis. If you're not looking, they're not looking to be seen. So, it can go undetected for a long time.
Steph, you need to get rid of that squirrel.
I have. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you had to go get like big critters out of people's houses, or snakes, or things that like?
We do get the calls. There's not a lot of most of the snakes around here are pretty docile, pretty harmless. Your garter snakes, your milk snakes. But some people, they have a zero tolerance. They see a garter snake in the basement,
Zero
they're calling, they go and get it.
They're calling
They
911.
don't. I try to talk them down. Hey,
They're burning their house
it's just
down.
a garter snake. It's harmless. I don't give a
Vic
shit.
has
What
to
kind
calm
of
them.
snake?
Calm down. Take a breath.
Yeah.
Vic has to be a therapist
They say
as
no,
well.
we do, but with that, a lot of times it's like they don't care.
They don't
just,
care.
Just come get it. I don't care what kind of snake. You keep it. But for larger wildlife, yeah, raccoons.
Raccoons. You've had
Fish.
raccoons in?
Skunks. Yep, that's a pretty common one. Where they get in a lot is in people's chimney stacks. So if you're not really, back in the day, everybody was using their fireplaces, not so much anymore. It's usually just a kind of a vent chase, to vent your boilers and your heaters and stuff. So what will happen is they'll climb down there at this time of year, similar to squirrels. They start dropping their young, sometime usually in March. So they love to just climb down that chimney and make a nest right there. So then when the young are born, they're very vocal. So people, they might not hear the adult coming in and out. They're pretty stealthy about it. But then once those young start, when the adult leaves, they're calling for us. You're hearing those vocals. And then when they're old enough to start leaving themselves, you hear a lot of scurrying and scratching. So those are always fun, getting the raccoons out of chimneys. But that can all be prevented with a chimney cap, which we do install chimney caps. So there's another preventative measure that can be taken.
You need a chimney cap.
And not only does the chimney cap keep things out, it keeps debris out.
Right.
It keeps the chimney in good repair for longer. Because you're not getting, the cap is going to have like almost a roof to it that's going to overshoot the perimeter of the chimney. So that's keeping a lot of the rain and moisture off it. So it's not freezing, getting in between the mortar and, deteriorating the chimney as fast. So
Now, what type of preventative do you do to your own home?
Well, you know how it is when you're.
Vic does nothing until he hears
If you
something.
ask my
He
wife,
goes,
she's always, I saw this, I saw that, I saw. I'm like, don't worry about it. Call the office. They'll send somebody.
Call the office.
So I probably don't do as much as I should, but
Right.
I do, take rat. If there's rodent activity, I have chickens myself, so I'm always looking for ways to prevent that. Knock on wood, I haven't had any serious infestations, but I keep the chicken feed in rodent-proof containers. I keep the droppings in a way where when the chickens are leaving their droppings in that pile under their perches, I can take that. It's like in a slide-out container that I can take and go use for the garden, but not have it, just turn into a food fest for rodents.
Right.
Now,
And those things, can be pointed out. So a lot of what we do
Yeah.
is just educating people about their specific on-site needs or conditions that are conducive to pest activity. So it's walking around with the homeowner, pointing out the areas of concern, some ideas of how they can rectify that. Some of the stuff we do, the preventative, like with the chimney caps or sealing up openings, but a lot of it, needs to be handled by the homeowner or the property manager. So we like to point that out, get them doing those things. We do our things, and that's how you have a pest-free.
So how long does it take for you to come to someone's house and walk around with them and look at everything? And how much would that cost for that one-time service, you think? It depends on the size of the house.
Well, yeah. So if it's just we're just coming out to do like an inspection type of thing, those are usually, they start, usually around $250 for someone to come out, and we credit that towards any service that they go. If you're having an issue or you want to get on a program, we'll credit that inspection fee towards, whatever service or agreement you might need.
Yeah.
And you you go all over the state?
Yeah, we try to focus on Eastern Mass. Just, we're always been in the Boston area. Boston is pretty much the hub of where you're going to have most, the pests go where the people go. So where you have the most people in houses is typically the most pests. So we're covering pretty much everything east of Worcester.
Okay.
Up to the New Hampshire border, down to the bridge, the Cape Cod bridges.
Now, do you do state contracts too?
We used to do a lot more. Prior to COVID, we had a lot of housing, municipal housing, even some contracts where we do the whole town. So we do like, the schools, the police stations, any town-owned properties. During COVID, that stuff really, a lot of it got backburned. I mean, they needed stuff. So, I mean, there was still bids coming out, but generally it was like low bid type stuff. The lowest bidders was getting in on these contracts. And that just wasn't our company. We were more proactive, doing more than your average pest control company that's going to come and, throw a few glue boards and traps around. You want to try to get to the real root of the problem and handle it. And those types of contracts didn't allow for that. So now, today, like really, the last 5 years, we're like 90-something% residential. We're focused on the residential homeowner. Just gives us, there's more control there. The homeowner has the same interest as you to get rid of these things as quick as possible, as painless as possible. Where these state contracts, every property's got a different person managing that property.
Oh, right.
They may have different motivations, If the pest activity is not affecting them, maybe they don't see it as a priority, where the homeowner, it's a priority.
Yeah, right.
So that's what we like.
I feel like this is a good Christmas present to give people.
Yeah.
We sell gift certificates.
Oh, you do? I was going to ask. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Maybe you should get it for Alexa for her birthday. June 14th, June 11th.
Maybe I'll get you one, and then you can regift it to her.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, I need it.
You need to get rid of
She
that.
has a landlord. Yeah, I now I'm scared that this girl's getting
So
ready
that
for
comes
babies.
up a lot, people with landlords. Who's responsible? Who's this?
Her
Who's
landlord
that?
is very good. He'll do anything for her.
Most responsible landlords understand that it's ultimately their responsibility to rent a tenant a pest-free environment. So at the end of the day, the landlord is responsible. That's not to say that tenants sometimes pay for it because they want to make sure it's done a certain way by a certain company. But if tenants call, the first thing we usually ask them is, have you talked to your landlord about this? Because they may already even have somebody under contract for you. Because that's the thing. If you go and call on your own and you didn't talk to the landlord and you had somebody come out, you may have trouble getting reimbursed just because they may say, well, we had a pest company under contract, so had you called, we would have just sent our person out.
Right.
So it's always good to check with the landlord first.
Yeah.
And gauge their level of commitment to it. Most of the good ones will send some, call somebody like us if they don't already have somebody. Come out and take care of it.
Now, what about the chemicals? Is it chemicals to get rid of bugs and stuff? Is it something that you have to be worried about?
It's definitely evolved a lot over the last
dive in?
20 years. They've gotten a lot safer, and our company tries to rely on the spraying the least as possible. So targeting, and even when we are applying materials, is like very targeted to the crevices and the points where the pests are actually getting in, more so than just broadcast spraying. I would say with ticks, we still do some broadcast spraying because you really have to get that focused into like the leaf litter and the areas where the ticks are hiding. And it's just such a broad area around the property that you kind of have to still do some power spraying. But for the structure itself, our approach is mostly trapping, baiting, exclusion, so sealing up the holes, identifying problems in conducive conditions and that type, removing those food sources. And
so do you do, sorry, Steph, go ahead. Do you do mosquito spraying too?
We do.
So you do mosquito and tick? Mosquito
and tick. That's become, we didn't probably the first 10 years we were in business.
Meredith, you love a mosquito spray.
Yep.
But yeah, like the last, 10 years or so.
That's got to be lucrative.
Strong.
I know somebody who bought a truck sprayer, and he paid it off like in his first year. Because everybody's like, sign me up, please. I don't want mosquitoes and ticks in my yard.
How do you do that if you don't have a spraying truck? Do you?
We do with backpack sprayers.
Oh, yeah.
For that. So you'll have.
And so what do you walk around the yard?
Yep. Spraying the vegetation. So mosquitoes, think of them like vampires, right? They're small, relatively, soft body. Like they desiccate fast, so they can't really be in the direct sunlight for long. Mosquitoes. So that's why you're gonna find them. You're gonna find them right at dusk, early morning, and during the day they're gonna all be hiding in the shady area. So under porches, under sheds, thick vegetation. So those are the areas we're focusing, the treatment on.
I feel like you need a mosquito and tick spray.
I do. I have it.
Everybody can use that.
Yeah. It comes like every 3 weeks, I think.
Yep.
Starting pretty soon, next month maybe.
Oh.
I mean, it's dramatic having your yard sprayed and then you have a party, as long as it's not raining like crazy. But if it's a normal, you don't have mosquitoes.
Wow.
I mean,
it does make a big impact. I mean, you might still see a couple because the wind can blow them in from any direction.
Of course.
Right.
You're not having them like that. Those resident mosquitoes.
Yeah. I mean, it's a game changer.
Absolutely.
It really is. At least for my yard. But we don't have any water sources around our yard. We basically cut down all the trees.
People don't realize that's the number one thing with mosquitoes. So is the water, right? They're going to be close. So even just a tiny, a spare tire, a planter, a kid's toy that's holding just what you think is just enough water that's in this bottle of water. Thousands and thousands of mosquitoes can hatch out of that, So,
wow.
Think like those sea monkeys, little few eggs in there, and it's going.
What a way to kill an outdoor party.
And mosquitoes, they live their whole life cycle. Depending on the species, they're pretty much living their whole life cycle out in a matter of days or weeks.
Now, remember the fogger that we grew up with? I think it's still sold. What's the difference between the fogger chemicals and what you spray?
You talking like the mosquito magnet type of?
No, meaning like
the big guns.
You put it
propane, you light
like
it.
our dads would
and then you
spray
run
around the yard, and then we all got
take cover
cancer afterwards.
Yeah, so it's typically there's ULD foggers. So like if the material is more of an oil based, it would have a different mode of action for that. Nowadays, most of it is water based. So you don't really need, the high temp equipment. It's really, basically, it's like a leaf blower that's just blowing out the idea is just making those water particles into a mist. That's the idea, is to get that mist to travel into that thick vegetation.
And what kind of chemicals does it have in it?
So there's all different ones. It's just a matter of choice. We like the lower impact, a little more eco-friendly stuff, because we're applying it every 3 weeks, type of thing. So
I had a flea problem when I first moved into my condo in East Taunton.
Really?
Yeah. So Jason and I
how long ago?
100
almost
years
30 years
okay.
ago. Yeah. So Jason and I we buy this condo, and then we go away on our honeymoon, and then we come back from our honeymoon, and now it's the first night we're going to sleep in the new condo. I wake up and I'm covered with flea bites, and I counted them, and I had 52 flea bites.
I believe it.
Jason did not have one because they chose me as the host. So I called my mother and I said, I want to come home. I don't want to be married anymore, and I don't want to live here. And so I said to Jason, we need an exterminator. He goes, let me do a project first. I'm like, okay. So he gets a bowl of water and puts dishwashing soap in the water and then puts a light bulb.
That's a new one.
Because
Vic?
he thought that the fleas were
Would
going
go
to
to
jump
the light.
into the water from the light. And I said, please,
Probably
can
a few of them did.
can we
but-
rip out the carpeting or get an exterminator? He said, no. I basically said there's no place for me to sleep except for on the kitchen table.
So it's funny you said that. And the reason I asked how long ago is because fleas is
I'm making a comeback.
no. In fact, they've
They've died
they're all
out.
but gone. Yeah. So what happened was
Really?
when I first got into this industry, almost 30 years ago, it was a big thing. Right?
Vic
There
has
was
killed all the fleas.
Fleas were like a common call out.
Really?
Today, once or twice a year.
Why is it because all the collars
Wow.
that the pets have on now?
That and think about 25, 30 years ago, the amount of strays there were. Like I when I was younger, before I moved to Saugus,
Yeah.
we lived in East Boston, and like East Boston, there was cats everywhere. I mean, you could go out in the yard, turn over a pail and find kittens, it was like, so that, all the stray cats we had. So, here's an example of how human behavior can prevent and even eliminate something like fleas, right? So they started doing, and I was part of this back then, we would trap the alley cats. All right, so you'd have all these resident cats at the housing developments all over the city. They would hire us to go and trap them, and so we put cat food in our raccoon traps, and we would catch them and we would bring them to this place. It was called the Alley Cat Society, and what they would do is they would spay and neuter them, give them any medical treatments they needed, and then we would bring them back and release them.
Oh, wow.
In the same spot. The idea being they're territorial anyway, so just trapping them and euthanize them wouldn't work because other strays would take over that territory, right?
Yep.
Whatever resources. So by putting them back there, they're still defending their territory, but
Yep.
they're not reproducing.
Oh, right.
So as they died of old age, you don't see it. Now you drive around the city, you very rarely see stray
I
dogs
never
or
knew that
cats.
This
And
is
Doing that
unbelievable.
helps eradicate
So that,
fleas.
Right.
but that's the interesting thing about the pest industry is it's always those new and upcoming trends,
Right.
where fleas were such a big thing, but yet no one heard of a bed bug yet, right? At that time. And then all of a sudden that became a whole
We need to talk
thing,
about that. Are those still around?
They are. Nowhere near where they were, where the media would have had you think they were in the, early 2010s, that type. And again, through awareness, people learning about them. Now they check their bed when they go to the hotel, or they're looking for stuff. They're careful where they
What do you do?
travel. Bring their stuff
Look under the
home.
sheets?
You got
and
the
like
blue
around the
light thing?
edges?
You want to look around the corners, the tufts of the mattress for staining. They leave their little blood droplet staining, so it look like.
I don't stay in those kind of hotels, Vic.
You also want to be careful where you're putting your luggage and stuff. Keep it up high on flat, hard surfaces. You don't want to keep it, on the floor near the bed, because that's their motive. That's how they're successful. They're great hitchhikers. So they're looking. You put your bag down. They're looking to just climb up in that crevice and end up somewhere else. It's just their natural instinct is to, put themselves in a position to be transported. They don't really transport themselves. But through detection, we used to even use the detection dogs to sniff them out. But again, early detection, now hotels and those places have regular inspections of the rooms. That goes a long way because now, okay, we got some bed bugs here. We can treat that room before it spreads to all the adjacent rooms and then all the adjacent rooms from there. And now it's like all those people are bringing them home to their houses.
Obviously, the Alexas had a bed bug infestation at UMass Amherst.
They did?
Oh, of course they did.
I wouldn't be
There was a
surprised.
spider infestation when I was there, and my girlfriend got bit in her dorm. The whole thing had to be evacuated because it was a spider that was biting some of the students, and my girlfriend got bit right here, and it was nasty.
I had 12 spider bites the day before my wedding
What?
on my back.
You got a lot going on.
Vic, I know that you said you were from Saugus, so I just want to put this out there. My daughter is obsessed with North Shore people.
Okay.
So, and she's 28, she's going to be 29, and she's single and ready to mingle. So if you know of any men in their 30s from the North Shore
Italian descent, helpful.
that might be in the water management.
Be careful what you wish for, but
Right?
okay.
Right. She likes the Italian. She likes wastewater management. a tattoo and occasional smoker's fine.
Okay.
Just putting it out there. You might know someone. You might have
I know a few.
See, you might have a cousin or a nephew, and I just wanted to say that before the podcast was over.
I'm sure she's going to love you for saying that.
So is there something we can do not to get off for our body, not to get mosquito bites? Because I feel like I'm sweet smelling. I am always a host to mosquitoes and fleas. What can we do?
My son is that way. If there's one mosquito in a 5-mile radius,
He'll get bit.
yes.
What do we do, Vic?
So the number one thing you can do is around the property, control those water sources, like I was saying.
Right.
Even the smallest ones. So it rains out, just go around, any kids' toys, flip them over, get rid of things that
smart.
might hold water.
Yeah.
Now, the one place that it's tough for people to check that is a common source of it is in the gutter. So if you have rain gutters and it's clogged up somewhere and that gutter holds water, maybe not enough to cause a problem where you're noticing it, but just one corner of the gutters, the water's always staying there until the sun dries it out, a period of time after it rains. Those are the spots you want to get taken care of. So having the gutters cleaned regularly goes a long way with the mosquitoes.
Meredith. When's the last time you've cleaned your gutters?
Well, I called my gutter guy before the winter, but he never came out. So I have
Usually spring and fall. That's when you want to have the gutters.
Is there
cleaned.
something we can put on our bodies to
So,
repel
as far as personally getting
Can
bit,
you spray us down, Vic?
the first, I can't, but you can definitely spray yourself. We find that the DEET-based products work best for mosquito repellents. Avoiding the time of day when it's just starting to get dark, that's when, think of a mosquito just sitting there in the shade, like just waiting and waiting. Like I can't go out and bite anybody until the sun goes down. Just like a vampire. They're just licking their chops, waiting for that sun, to drop below the horizon. That's when they're going to be the most active. So just avoiding outside just for that like hour or so after dusk. A lot of them will have already fed and gone back to sleep, so to speak, by then. So by coming out a little bit later at night, you're already exposing yourself to a lot less of a mosquito. Not that you won't get bit. There's still going to be mosquitoes around, but if you've had, your property treated and you're avoiding that time,
And I learned that there's
people
all
love it.
different types of mosquito species.
There is.
I thought there was just one. This was when EEE was like, people were freaking out.
Yeah, no, it's probably like 15 or 20.
Oh,
just
wait,
in
I have
Massachusetts alone.
one.
Yeah.
What about sometimes you find tons of ladybugs everywhere?
The ladybugs are harmless, beneficial insect.
Aren't they good luck, Vic?
They're good luck unless you crush them and it rains for, I don't know.
Meredith, don't crush the ladybugs.
No, I wouldn't. I think they're cute.
Ladybugs, yeah, they actually feed on aphids and some of these other insects that can damage, ornamental plants and landscape plants. So they're great to have around. Gardeners will buy cultures of ladybugs just to release in their garden.
What about praying mantis?
The idea is keeping them out of the house, though, right? Because that can,
Death.
So again, that
death.
comes with just, sealing up the openings. You get a gap around doors and windows. Anywhere where you feel a breeze or a draft coming, the bugs can get in, More so, we get the call now for the stink bugs. So there's another one of those things that wasn't a problem and then became.
Why are they a thing now?
Just, they invasive, so a lot of them probably got transported here on a shipment of apples or something. They love apple trees, so that's why I picked that one. But, so they're actually decimating
What about
a lot
these
of our apple
Japanese
trees.
jumping worms? Do you have to deal
The
with
Japanese beetles?
No,
Meredith, you're making that up.
No, this is jumping. Well, obviously it's not a thing here, but on my gardening site, like there's some new jumping worm from one of the Asian.
So it's
Vic
probably
will kill
it's
it.
a larva, probably from one of the beetle species. That's typically what you'll have is the larva form of it, and then that'll turn into the actual beetle. And usually the larva forms are the ones causing most of the damage. They're feeding
eating
on the leaves,
right.
and
then what, they turn into a beetle?
Yeah. A lot of them, so yeah, there's always these different species popping up, and becoming an issue. So the stink bugs, a lot of people get them in the house because they look to overwinter in the gaps, that the house provides. So in the soffits, and because it's just warm enough for them to kind of stay.
They go swimming
overnight,
in my house.
Overwinter, and then they wake up. Those warm days, you'll see them all around the windows or on the ceiling. So
They're pretty easy to get rid of, though. Like,
They don't want to be inside. It's another one of those what we call occasional invaders, like ladybugs, stink bugs, even some of your, your moth species. They're just not interior type pests. They could not survive and reproduce and have their whole life cycle happen within the structure. They need to be out and get their food sources from the other plants and different types of stuff that's growing outside.
Vic, you really are an expert.
yeah.
Well, you should be, right? If you're going to own a pest control business, you should probably know.
How did you get into it?
He got sick of selling motorcycles with me.
Oh, you sold motorcycles with Wally. Now it's all coming together.
So that was actually connected. I used to have, when I first started this
Connected
business.
like the mob?
Well, we won't go there, but, we used to, when I first started out, the winters were kind of slow. You don't have as many species, So I would sell motorcycles in the afternoons and on the weekends, to supplement the income. So that's actually how I met Wally and, a lot of other people through the motorcycle industry. But to answer the question, how did I get into the pest, I've always loved just, anything creepy, crawly. I used to, catch snakes all over the neighborhood, even when I lived in the city. And was always fascinated by nature and both insects, mammals. So it made sense to, get into that type of business. I was working for a pest company for a couple of years, and I said, this is what I want to do. I knew I wanted to have my own business, just at the time didn't know what it was. And once I found pest control,
you were hooked. I love that.
It's a great business. There's always something going on.
Right.
You're
Every
able
day
to help
something
people,
new.
see something new.
Yep.
And even over the years, you've seen, like I said, fleas, that was a big thing. Now we don't see much of it. There's always something else to kind of
Well, you're helping people in
along.
a
Wait a
moment of
minute.
crisis for them.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do people even need to give their dogs flea treatments anymore?
They should. They should. There's still fleas. It's just not
As prevalent.
problematic. There's
Gotcha.
not these big infestations, which allows for the more rapid spread. People usually, they'll find it pretty quick. There's still fleas in nature, so you'll still maybe pick them up. But yes, because the dogs all wear flea collars and get the treatments from the vet, less likely for them to bring enough in to have an infestation in the house, Human behavior is like 99% what's related to the success of the pests. It's like most of them need us, the ones that are infesting in a structure.
I kind of thought we were just
They need
innocent
us.
victims.
Oh.
But
I'm emotionally exhausted from this episode.
It's a lot to digest, right?
I
I
want to
feel itchy.
Me too. I want to go
I want to
home.
go look at my attic.
I feel like I need to go to sleep or something. I'm really emotionally exhausted. This is unbelievable.
I'm glad you had it.
Vic,
I had a good time. My
you
first
are
podcast. So.
really unbelievable. I think everybody needs to call. I mean, the treatment for you to even just come out once and take a look around, it's totally worth it.
How do they find you?
We're at ultrasafepest.com or our phone number 866-472-5858. Someone's answering the phone pretty much 24/7.
Are you on social media?
We are. Yep. Facebook, Instagram.
So impressed, Vic.
Do you show pictures of the critters that you've killed?
You
We
should.
try not to gross people out, but yeah, there's
There's some on your
pictures
website.
there.
I actually sent you a video of him taking
Yeah.
raccoons out of a chimney.
Oh my God. If you need a cool video, my son does amazing videos for companies.
Actually,
Like seriously, you could have like a 30-second video or a 60-second video.
yeah,
It's really
definitely give
cool.
me his info because
I will.
I've been making them myself. And
Oh,
it looks
oh
like
no.
it.
You're going to have the coolest video. Just wait, Vic.
Okay.
Ultra Safe Pest Management.
Ultra safe.
Thanks for joining us,
Vic
Vic.
with a C.
Thanks for having me.
This was so much fun.
Thanks, Wally.
Wally.
You're very welcome. Who's
it out
coming
of the
day
ballpark.
drinking with us now?
Wally.
Let's
stop
go make
trying to
some
get
bad
me to-
decisions.
I was day drinking yesterday. I'm still
Yeah, but that's Sunday. It doesn't count.
true.
Thanks for joining us,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys. Ciao,
Have a good day.
ciao.
Thank you.